Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and we're going to be discussing scaling with confidence, securing private LTE and 5G in the oil and gas verticals. I'm Pete Capiello, CEO of Future Technologies, based up in the New York City area. Joined today by Ray and Gary. Ray, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Ray Clounch. I'm the Channel Technical Director with OneLayer. I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I work with partners like Future Tech, coming up with the solutions for them. Gary?
Hey, Gary Hill, Chief Innovation Officer here at Future Technologies. I'm at our corporate headquarters in Atlanta, or our living lab, which we'll get a tour of a little bit later in the show here. Prior to Future Tech, worked with a large manufacturing company, Georgia Pacific Corporation. Was there a little over 33 years running IT, working with the operations team. So kind of really play the role kind of as customer here at Future Tech as we work with our enterprise customers.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys, and excited to have this conversation. Just a little background on Future Technologies, 1 minute. We've been doing connectivity transformation for 26 years now, specifically working on private cellular technology for 15 plus years, starting in the government sector, started to do industrial private cellular in 2017. In the energy market, we've been supporting the energy market for over 10 years as a company, have an office in Midland, Texas, but support oil and gas operations onshore, as well as some history doing some operations offshore in the Gulf of America. But excited for today's discussion to talk about connectivity transformation, specifically private LTE, but also public cellular, and how OneLayer helps secure and scale up those implementations. Our approach is life cycle driven, so we try to meet our customers where they are in the life cycle and help them kind of solve for their current problem, and ideally, create value and have long-term partnerships. So a little bit about our company. Ray, if you could maybe give a quick overview on OneLayer.
Absolutely. So OneLayer, what we do today is provide zero trust security and full asset management. And when I talk about full asset management, that's basically looking at everything from a client perspective that's connecting to these private LTE networks. We've got some defining partnerships out in the industry today. We're core agnostic, but when we look at folks like Ericsson and Nokia, Druid, Solana, Athonet, we work with all these guys very closely. And then we have lots of different folks, especially from the investment area, looking at Chevron and Coke and Telefonica. And there's many more than this that are out there today, because a lot of these folks understand that there is a need for this security on the private LTE side. When you talk private LTE, you're talking about the transport itself. But when we're talking about private LTE from a security perspective, we're talking about the client side of the world. So when you talk about OneLayer, you're talking about securing those clients that are out there on that network today. Next slide.
Great. Well, one thing just to step back from, like, when we're talking about the energy market, we're really looking at these trends on a more macro basis. We see in the critical infrastructure markets, energy included, there's big data AI modernization going on, large scale industrial automation, and then also national security for these critical infrastructure markets is really, really important. And, if you look at the cover of the Wall Street Journal, you see lots of articles about our grid modernization. There'll be $1 trillion spent between now and 2030. There'll be another $1 trillion spent on compute and AI, kind of that data compute side of things. And if we skip over connectivity, we go to the far right end. I mean, in every environment that we're in, so in energy, whether it's a petrochem site, an oil field, we're just seeing massive device adoption there, more cameras, more sensors, more connected people, more connected machines. But what we're trying to make sure that as we're looking to secure and connect and modernize our infrastructure, we got to make sure that the connectivity is scaled for that. If we add more and more compute and more devices, but we don't invest in the connectivity, this larger modernization initiative may not see its full potential. So we want to think about that kind of at a higher level. And then, of course, like as we're putting compute and devices out there, we want to make sure the application is working, from the compute to the devices. So, kind of at a high level, when we're thinking about connectivity transformation, we think it's really important, especially in markets like the energy market that's going through lots of modernization activities. Maybe, Gary, could you give us a little point of view from your perspective of what challenges and opportunities exist in the energy market?
Yeah, Pete, I was working with our customers today. A lot of them have built out kind of their private cellular footprint. I'd say they started small scale, but now we're starting to see broader adoption. So as you mentioned, more devices on their network. So maybe they started, with a few devices, connected worker. Now they're adding sensors. They're adding more use cases. So I think one challenge is the scale up of those private networks that are being built out in the industry here. So I think OneLayer can help with that visibility. Hey, when you have a handful of devices on your network, visibility may not be as big of a challenge. We're now seeing customers get into hundreds and thousands of devices on their private network, which you do need something to help with that. And again, OneLayer can bring you that visibility.
Yeah, Ray, one of the things we've seen is kind of, especially like in the petrochem side, it's, we've seen pilots, we've seen production, we're getting into multi-site deployments with these large operators. How does OneLayer help from a scalability perspective in that?
Starting off with from scalability with those devices that everybody knows with the private LTE networks today, being able to provision those devices, it can be cumbersome sometimes. So OneLayer actually simplifies that process. We're not just a zero trust application that runs on your network. We can also help with the activation and provisioning of those devices and help streamline that, where we integrate with different things and securing those things, like integrating with the firewalls of the world and the ServiceNow, where we can do that provisioning through like ServiceNow, where you've got just a standard help desk person that can now activate a device seamlessly and knowing that it's going to be trusted, for the fact that we're integrated with the firewall as well, that once the device is on the network, that it gets put into the proper network. So we're streamlining everything that's happening with all these large deployments that are going on when you're talking about this space, because again, as they continue to expand all these devices on their networks, they're going to need help with that on these private LTE networks.
Yeah, no, we're definitely seeing that, especially as like again we go to production and then multi-site. There's just more devices getting deployed, and then more things getting deployed behind those devices, like the industrial routers. But just to kind of take it down one level from, when we're looking at the energy market, we see these as the four core sub-markets there: oil field, pipeline, petrochemical sites. We've also seen some carbon capture sites being built, which are, greenfield, basically manufacturing sites. But, Gary, maybe can you comment on these sub verticals, maybe some of the trends we're seeing in those?
Yeah, so kind of in the oil field space, again, we're building, I'd say, broader macro type coverage there, field area type networks. So again, think you've got oil pads scattered all over West Texas. In many places, there is no connectivity. So we're helping our customers build out those broader, say, field area networks for coverage there. Hey, the petrochem, we've done several chemical facilities. Again, those are more smaller, localized sites. The challenge there has always been, though, really no connectivity outdoors or very limited for the worker. So that's been enabling outdoor macro coverage for connected worker, connecting people to the ERP system, a work order system, actually when they're out at the chemical site working outdoors. So big benefits there. Same with the pipeline, we are seeing, more need for sensors, SCADA monitoring along your pipelines. And leak detection is always mentioned as a big use case there. So we still see people tackling those challenges. And again, connectivity is a big part of that. And again, on the carbon capture, new sites being built greenfield. So in many cases, we're putting in the private network day one as a part of the construction for those projects, and then expanding those networks as they go into production and bring more users and more devices onto the private network.
Great. Hey, Ray, in the oil field market, I mean, we're talking about private cellular predominantly here, but also on the the public cellular side, you spent several years at Cradle Point, but there's also opportunities in the oil field using wireless WAN. Maybe you want to comment on that. Like, so if you're an existing client using public cellular, now it's private. Like, I don't know, what does that journey look like? Because there's a lot of that out there.
Yeah, so one of the things that OneLayer is doing today, we've brought together, we're working with the carriers that are there today to bring all the carriers together under one platform. So what we're doing is we're working with the Verizons, T-Mobiles, the AT&Ts of the world, where we're integrating with their system as well. And then so if the customer today like is using 3 different carriers, they're spread across a large, vast area, you can't do it all with one carrier. We're able to give them one single pane of glass where they can actually look at all 3 of these carriers at one time and know what devices they have on the network, what their inventory looks like. Not only that, we can still give them more visibility than what the carriers are giving them, because we all know carriers are very sim centric. That's all they really care about. They don't really care about securing the client device. What we do at OneLayer is that we do give you that. We want to give you that visibility of the client device and anything that's behind that client device. So we give you that visibility of what's going on with your network today.
That makes sense. And like, I mean, we kind of align to, the future state is these cellular systems. Some will be private, some will be public, but then there will be hybrid where,
Yeah.
for the IT department, how do you do that device management? How do you do some of this automation with these workflows you mentioned? We're trying to help, figure out that future state.
Well, and also you're looking at a lot of these folks are trying to get off the public networks, right? They're running the private SIMs, everything's coming back to their network, but they're trying to figure out a way, how do I transition to these private LTE networks? With OneLayer, we can help them transition that. That's one of the big things. I know we're talking oil and gas, but we're doing that with utilities today. And a lot of these folks are trying to figure this out. Okay, how do I move it from this public carrier to the private in a seamless manner that's not costing me a lot of man hours? With OneLayer, we can definitely help you with that today.
Yeah, we're even seeing a lot of our customers today as they even transition to a private network, maybe keeping the public SIM in those routers for backup.
Yep.
So, most of our industrial OEM support, multi SIMs in the industrial routers. So you've got that scenario where maybe I have a public and a private network going on concurrently. So again, OneLayer can kind of bridge that and give you visibility across both if that's kind of where you're at.
Yeah, that's a good point. Failover is a big thing, right, Gary? When,
Yes, sir.
these critical applications that are running on these things, when they're looking at all these pumps and stuff and sensors. So you want communication all the time, and we can definitely help you with that.
Yeah, no, and this kind of illustrates what you guys are describing. That's why I jumped ahead. But it's like, depending upon, where we're trying to connect things, there might be different, network options. It might be public cellular today, in some of these greenfield environments where you're building out a new, production site. You might have to build, new connectivity and everything in between. But, one of the things we're going to do today is demonstrate the OneLayer solution, but do that in our living lab where we have a lot of use cases on display. So Gary's going to do that. But maybe before we go do the live tour, Gary, can you touch on some of these high runner use cases in the energy market?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, you get into some of our customers. They typically have 1 or 2 use cases in mind, as part of that business case for building the private network. Again, I think this whole workforce connected worker is a big part of that. Again, just enabling your employees with tablets, with phones, to kind of go out into your remote locations, get into your ERP system, get into your safety system. So the whole critical comms is also a piece of that. Digital work order. Again, I'd say those are very, very high runner. Again, really just giving connectivity today to a lot of systems. The apps already exist. It's just there's been a big lack of connectivity. Hey, the SCADA monitoring is also kind of table stakes for this industry here. All these wellheads, devices, pumps, everything out there is being monitored over their SCADA network. So obviously looking for better, more robust connectivity for monitoring those networks as well. And then we're seeing some video come in. Some of our customers have been using video traditionally for security purposes. Now we're seeing a shift to using video for, OT, the OT team monitoring, hey, the health of a facility, hey, monitoring processes going on. So again, we're seeing kind of an uptick in video surveillance with AI built in, either at the edge or being pushed back to kind of a cloud service. So again, those are some of the high runner areas. Hey, UAV inspection, obviously that's taking place. Probably more of an outlier there for private connectivity. But again, our customers are being aggressive, trying to optimize, have better safety. So we're there to help them with that connectivity required.
Yeah, and just from a few trends, the connected worker element, like in the petrochem environments, we find that the business cases are being driven off of the ERP, kind of the connected worker aspect. One other, high level horizontal use cases, industrial automation. We're seeing more machines getting connected, more sensors on the machines. You got to aggregate that data, which kind of brings us to what we'll talk about later. Not only is OneLayer able to help with the device management, but also what's behind the device. Because in a lot of cases, we're using an industrial router to basically get on the think of it as a wireless local area network, but then behind that router, we're plugging things in. So how do we make sure that that's done safely and securely in these environments? And then if there's, things that are suspicious, how do those get flagged? Because these are very distributed, assets. So having the ability to kind of sense some of those things going on behind the router is also provides some operational efficiency and risk mitigation. So we'll talk about that there in a second. But appreciate Gary, running through some of the use cases. But why don't we transition from slides to showing some use cases live and also demonstrate what's possible with OneLayer. Sound good?
Let's do it. Hey, thanks, Pete. Gary Hill, Future Technologies here in our Atlanta headquarters. We're going to give you a quick tour of our living lab, which shows connectivity, edge compute, end user devices and use cases, and also show you some examples and a demo of the OneLayer product. So again, here at the showroom, we used to show customers kind of panes of glass into their private networking. So again, here at the lab, we're running multiple private cellular products. We've integrated most of those with the OneLayer product. So here's an Ericsson EP5G, an Nokia NDAC. So again, OneLayer is integrated fully into those. And again, really what OneLayer does is give the customer visibility of those SIMs of what devices are on your network. So here we're showing an example of a Cradlepoint R920. So this is an industrial router. A lot of our customers use these. Could be SimTech, could be GE, could be Digi. But again, OneLayer has the ability to go in and fingerprint those devices at a very detailed level beyond what the private network can do. I'll just show here. Here's an S400 router. So here's showing model number. Hey, it gets down to what modem is actually in the device, what operating system is running. So again, much more detail than you're going to see in your private network site. We're also able to show traffic off of that router. So here's the S400 going to a destination port, date and time stamping. So again, if you want to see what that router is talking to, they have all the information there as well. We can do other things here. Look at maybe there's manufacturers I don't want on my private network, so I can really use OneLayer to fingerprint models, manufacturers, do tracking there. We're going to do a more detailed demo here shortly. Kind of wanted to show you a high level view here. Thanks. Now we're going to take a quick stop in our edge compute room. Here's where we're running servers, running our switching infrastructure here for all of the systems that we run. You see a couple portable systems here. So again, we can take a private networking on the road for our customers and do product demos, we can do trade shows as well. There's some Cisco industrial infrastructure as well. So a lot of our customers are integrating a private network into the existing industrial environment. Also can show the customers each of the stacks. So here's the EP5G stack, the hardware of, you got dual controllers for high availability. You got your baseband and IRU technology. Some of our customers are going to dive into that as well. Here's the Nokia NDAC. So again, all these are running live at our lab, and we have OneLayer integrated into both the core and the radio network. And we're also running virtual compute here. The OneLayer software does have an edge component that runs on your site. So we'll run that on a VM in our server stack here. Let's head out to the tower area. We'll take a quick stop here to show you some of the training that we do. A lot of our installs of private cellular in an outdoor environment, oil and gas, chemical facilities. It's actually mounting the radio networks on towers. So either towers that are existing, maybe towers that we help the customer build. So again, really important from a safety training. All of our field services team on towers are getting annual training certification here for these outdoor installations. So we're in the arena now. This is where we have use case demo tables set up for a variety of our technology partners, either hardware, devices, or software. Before we hit those, let's look at also towers. We have 2 small towers built out in the arena. This is where we put our radio networks. So we have EP5G dot, Nokia radios. There's some Cambium equipment for point-to-point 60 gigahertz. So you see a Wi-Fi AP. We're also running Wi-Fi here. A lot of our existing industrial customers have Wi-Fi, and that's a part of our integration capabilities. Hey, some of the use case tables will start here. Here's an example where we're working with Rockwell to integrate really PLC technology into the private 5G network with industrial routers. Hey, we do LoRaWAN sensing, so a lot of our customers, a lot of their equipment is being maybe monitored today, a lot is not though, so LoRaWAN is a great option for them there. We can do industrial vibration monitoring. Here's a platform focused on monitoring rotating equipment, really doing predictive equipment maintenance type things. So before the piece of equipment goes down unplanned, it tells you 30, 60, 90 days out that there's going to be an issue. Hit this in here, a mobile robot. So again, another use case, we're seeing industrial routers being used. Typically, these have been Wi-Fi in the past. We see these shifting over to private cellular networks. Here we've integrated a cradle point industrial router into the robot, so he's now on the private 5G network. And again, OneLayer can now see that router and also see what's behind the router, so he knows it's a mere 100 on the private network. Other use cases, cameras, we've mentioned computer vision, very, very important. A lot of use cases. This was showing Daniel and I is counting us. It's also showing we don't have our hard hat on, so it can actually do things like detection of that. Put my hard hat on and that alert goes off. You can also do video compression, so we have special technology for that as well. Again, all these are flowing over the private cellular network, but doing video compression. This is taking about a 4 meg video stream and compressing that down to less than 500K with still really, really good quality. Fork trucks is another example. So here we're having an industrial tablet that doesn't do private cellular today on our fork truck, but we put an industrial router here. So we're able to get the tablet onto the network. Again, OneLayer can see the Sierra router here, an RV55. It can also see that there's a Dell tablet behind that industrial router. Again, that visibility you want of what's on your network. So we're going to end our tour with a view of our lab on wheels. This is an investment we made in partnership with Intel last year. Really everything you've seen today in the living lab, we can take on the road in our lab on wheels. So again, edge compute, private networking, all the devices, take to a customer location, can take to a trade show. Get here very quickly. So again, Starlink even, so when we're out on the road in maybe a remote location, we can still get backhaul connectivity. We have cases for the various technologies we bring along. We also have a small rack for edge computing. Also have a workstation area set up to do demonstrations for customers. So again, we're going to do a more detailed dive into the OneLayer product here momentarily, and I'll hand it back over to Pete and the team. Let's do a quick demo of the OneLayer product. This is an architectural diagram showing high level how OneLayer integrates to the private cellular mobile core as well as the radio access network. You have your devices, UEs, routers connected to the RAN. So OneLayer is collecting RAN traffic as well as integrating to the core, getting more detailed information about the devices. In addition, OneLayer has a very broad set of ecosystem partners from a cellular core and RAN providers. All the major players are already pre-integrated with the product, and there's deep integration to enterprise security and management platforms from your firewall, SIEM, IT ops, and mobile device management. Also, OneLayer can fingerprint a wide variety of devices in an environment, cellular devices, non-cellular devices. You're going to see a few of those here during the demo. Let's go over to our live environment here in the lab. So here's a Nokia index system we're running here in the lab. So this is up and running. We have actual connected devices here. Some are disconnected. Really, OneLayer doesn't care. It will tell you over in this interface whether the device is active, disconnected, because it's gathering that data from the cellular core. One thing to point out here, in most of the private cellular products we work with, on SIM management, this name here, this is something you have to type in manually. This is really the description you give of what the device is that SIM is assigned to. So this is something that you have to keep updated, and we'll just show an example of kind of how that works over in the OneLayer product. So here is the OneLayer cloud product. So this is our dashboard showing the number of devices we have, policy rules. We do have some traffic alerts set up. Does a nice job of breaking down your devices across hardware types. It does it automatically. Let's click into devices here. So we're going to just go and only bring up devices that are active and online. Narrow our list down a bit. I can also sort my list. I'm going to sort on the MC description. This is that actual SIM description from the Nokia INDAC we mentioned earlier. So this is what we had typed in. And the rest of this information is what OneLayer, through their proprietary technology, algorithms, are able to actually fingerprint the device. So we got pretty good tracking here. Hey, it's a Digi, Nokia devices. So we can scroll through and see pretty good matching until we get down to, let me see, Motorola router. So it's saying it's a Cradlepoint R980. We said it was a Motorola router. Let's go over to the SIM. Sure enough, that is the description we had typed in, but in reality, that is not a Motorola router. It is a Cradlepoint router. So that's a great example of OneLayer can show you what's really on your private network or a public network. It's not what you typed in the SIM description. It's not what you maybe think is there. It's actual real fingerprinting of the device on the network. So again, great visibility into, let's click into this Digi. So you're going to get not only information of the manufacturer model, but even under the covers, what type of modem is in there. So we can see here there's a Sierra Wireless modem under the covers of this Digi router. Hey, we get the IP address from the private network, which APN, and it's just some additional information. So kind of see activity over time when the device was active, online, and when it was offline. So again, this is all stored in the OneLayer database for analytics and correlation. Also keeps track of first time they've seen the device and the last time it's been on the network. Another great feature OneLayer brings is not only visibility to the actual devices you see here on the network. A lot of these industrial routers often have devices connected behind. So here's a Cradlepoint 920 or 920. Hey, showing we've got actually two devices behind that. So oftentimes you're connecting laptops, cameras, industrial devices to your industrial routers through Ethernet. So we can click through here. We see we have two devices. Here's actually one of those is an Axis camera. So again, telling us what's behind the router. Axis camera gives us the IP address on the local router. So again, really, really deep visibility, not only to the industrial router, but kind of what's behind it. Hey, device logs, again, really detailed information, kind of by device of what's happening here. Here's our Zebra device. Hey, it even shows it changed cells. So we have two radios here in the lab. We're moving the scanner around the environment, and we've basically changing what radio was attached to. So IP address, status, deep level of information about all the devices on your network here. Mentioned policy. So we have a policy rule set up here. This is an alert. So just giving the example, anytime any of the cellular devices go to this IP address, this is a server in our environment, and it's running a pretty sensitive application. So I want to know anytime any of the devices, any traffic flows to that destination IP. So we have that alert set up. I think on our dashboard today we had an instance of a device. Yep, there's an iSafe handheld device. Kind of earlier today was trying to go over to that destination IP and threw out an alert here. And we could take this one step further with OneLayer, do their integration over to the enterprise firewalls, NAC products, so I could actually real time create a firewall rule to block the IP of this device if I wanted to. So again, also some other monitoring capabilities, SIM swappings, perhaps a thing that maybe our customers are concerned about. Typically, again, you assign a SIM to a device. Sometimes you can lock it to the device. Some products don't allow that. Here's an example of someone took a SIM out of looks like a Nokia handset, moved it over to a Zebra TC26 scanner. Not sure why they did that. And then they moved it back quickly. So again, great example of providing that visibility of what's happening to those devices on your network. This could be an anomalous activity. So again, gives your cyber OT team more visibility on what's taking place on your private network. So we're going to end it there and turn it back over to the panel. Thanks.
Hey, welcome back. We appreciate Gary. Great job with the Living Lab tour and the demo. Always a good show, so we appreciate that from you. But now that we've talked about the macro events going on, the power, compute, connectivity, and devices, we talked about the vertical market, the sub-markets, the use cases. We were able to show the use cases and the product demo. I wanted to kind of get specific into the OneLayer value proposition. So, Ray, maybe specific to private network, because we talked about two different types of solutions, one for the private network, one for the public network. Let's start with private network first. But
Right.
what is OneLayer's unique value proposition here?
Well, as Gary went through his demo, a lot of the things that he showed in there, our value proposition is number one, you got your full asset inventory that's going on. You're able to see everything that's on your network, not just your cellular routers, but the devices behind it, right? We've talked about that a lot, about our fingerprinting technology that we use today. And then just also the workflow automation that allows us to do things like integration with ServiceNow or Splunk, where we can get the loggings that these folks are going to need today. And then all the insights and alerts that are given through OneLayer, right, where we can look at anything type of events and anomalies, are going on, where anything from a SIM swap to a device has actually changed to a different cellular device, and we're alerting on all those, and then we continue to expand upon those alerts, like unwanted manufacturers. The last thing you want to do is put something on your network that it's not called for. We've actually had a number of customers today where they've gotten a new a router, and it's had a manufacturer in there that's from another country. So we want to make sure that you guys are secure when you're looking at those, and then looking at the data, what the data flow looks like. We're looking for anomalies that are happening on your network itself. All of a sudden, did you have a spike on some of your equipment? So we're looking at things across the board when you're looking at is managing these devices to give you the visibility that you're looking for. Automation, helping you automate this, where we're bringing OT and IT together. This is something that we're talking more about today, where the OT guys, and especially the IT guys, hey, we want you to use our firewalls that we use today. How do we bridge that gap? And that's what we do. OneLayer bridges that gap between the private cellular side and then with the IT side of the world, right? So when we got these devices on, we can set policies in the firewalls so they're put into the proper networks. If they are not a product that's supposed to be on your network, where we can quarantine those devices that come onto your network. So, we're helping secure it, we're helping you manage it, and we're software only. Seamless type of deployment that's out there today. Future Tech has done many of these OneLayer deployments. They have the expertise to do these type of things. So, when it really comes down to it, as I said before, we're just helping bridge that gap between the OT and IT side of the world and trying to make their lives a whole lot easier.
I think just yes, and I think it's taking all of that complexity, but then giving that simplified user interface. So from a usability perspective, we could take that IT, OT, cybersecurity, and even like some telecom aspects, because we're working with cellular here.
Yeah.
But get that into a pane of glass that provides the right level of usability. And then as we step in terms of levels of integration, we could get like real advanced value through automation and workflows. I mean, we've known OneLayer since inception. It's really amazing what you guys have been able to do over the last 4 years. And I think it's a credit to your leadership to listen to customers and incorporate feedback directly from the customers to try to simplify, add value. But maybe Gary, for you to comment on the private network side of their offering, you were 30 years at the customer side of things at Georgia Pacific. I mean, what do you think the top one or two value points of the private network is for the OneLayer solution?
Yeah, I think the number one is visibility. I mean, kind of the number one tenet, if you look at cybersecurity, OT, and or IT, the very first thing is knowing what's on your network. So I think, again, in the demo, we showed examples of sometimes with just the private network solution, you're not exactly sure what's on your network. I think Ray mentioned even on a public network, the same deal. They don't really care about what the devices are, but you as an IT, OT, cyber person do. So I think number one is visibility. I mean, then all the traffic and just the activity, I'll say what's happening on your network then. So it's what's on your network and then what is it doing? So again, seeing all the traffic, the stuff alerting, and then to Ray's point, that integration with the rest of your infrastructure. So I think those would be the number two. We see that in the lab. Every day we're doing a lot of testing here with different products. And again, just great visibility. I think those are the top two runners.
Great. Well, let's change gears and talk about the public network side of things. Ray, I saw recently you guys did a public case study on a utility customer. So maybe, a lot of those field area networks for the utility are similar to some of these in the energy market. But can you overview the public network solution that you have here and maybe use that case study example in the utility market to kind of, talk about what's actually happening today, because it's happening today.
Yeah, it is happening today. And Peter, you talked about it earlier where you talked about from the utility space, we're working with our customers. It's actually our customers that actually pushed us into this market, right? Where they're like, look, you guys are doing a great job. We love what you're doing from looking at the inventory and helping us maintain these devices and helping us where we can deploy these devices much easier than what they are today. But hey, we're still working with all these public carriers today, and we need to simplify that to some degree. OneLayer, can you help us out? And we were like, absolutely. We had that where we started working with the carriers today. We've started out with Verizon today, where we're integrated with them. We have APIs into their product as well, and they have APIs in ours. And then, of course, we put the OneLayer product itself, the OneLayer bridge at the customer site, and we give them that visibility that they're looking for from a carrier perspective. But now they know what's on their network and then what's behind that device as well on that network. So now we're working with the AT&Ts and the T-Mobiles of the world. They're working with us. Our customers are helping us work with these carriers because this is a need that they need. Because if you got three different carriers, you have to go to three different carriers to manage these devices. Where now with OneLayer, we're doing this for them. And now they have just one place to go to look at all their devices, whether it's on a Verizon, AT&T, or a T-Mobile. To the fact that we're doing this internationally as well. This is moving forward on the international market. So not just here in North America. So for those customers that, are international type customers, we're able to support them as well. And then
Yeah, I apologize, Ray, but one other thing that I think is important is in all these critical infrastructure markets, there's also regulations for how are we locking down these devices
oh yeah,
from a cybersecurity perspective. And, the government's putting a lot of policies in place to make sure that we do that, especially, with some of the global things going on now. Our critical infrastructure, is really important, and we need to lock that down and secure it. And you guys are able to do that when we're on the private network, but this is another way for us to enhance the security on the public network side as well in these current times.
yeah, correct. And we mentioned this earlier where these guys are looking at getting off the public network and going private, but at the same time, as Gary mentioned, we could run dual SIM on a lot of these products that are out there today, or even dual modems, depending on what they want to do. But we would have that redundancy that's built into it as well. So, we had a big outage here with a big carrier not too long ago. I think everybody knows about that one. This was a situation that all of a sudden this whole system was down. And that's critical infrastructure. You cannot be down at any amount of time. So with these private infrastructures, then they could actually have a backup to the public infrastructure, but we would still be able to maintain that visibility. We would let you know when those devices actually switch back and forth. We would log all that information. So that's just some of the things that Gary showed earlier, where we show the logging that's going on and what's happening with these devices at all times.
I guess the nice thing for for the client is that like you're the user plane, but like you could work with multiple radio vendors, multiple core vendors, and in this case, you could work with the public network operator. So it's kind of, and you mentioned working with like Palo Alto on the firewall side as one example, but kind of pulling that all together and trying to help us secure, scale, and optimize kind of these network deployments as part of these large modernization projects going on. But I think for today we're running at our schedule point, but I definitely appreciate Gary, great job with the tour and the demo and the chat. Ray, appreciate all of your insight. But we'd love to meet with anyone that's joined and do a live tour demo. So feel free to click through and schedule a tour with us. But until next time, we appreciate everything and hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.